Do you do this like content creation full time?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
hmm
How long have you been training jujitsu?
I've been training for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What belt are you right now? Because I remember in the video you said you were a purple belt.
Yeah, I'm purple.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has this been all at the same gym?
So I started in California, and I trained there for 6 years, and that's where I got my purple belt. But then my wife got a job out in Hawaii. So basically, I tried to convince my work to like let me work remote, but they didn't let me work remote. So then I had to quit my job to follow my wife out here. And the island that we moved to didn't have any jujitsu. So basically, that's when I started the YouTube channel of just like watching people train and just trying to highlight stuff. Um, and yeah, so basically, like I started a little school out here on the island. So I don't have like a proper instructor or anything anymore, and that's been for the past like 4 years. So I imagine I'm going to be a purple belt for quite some time.
Well, that's really cool. The school that you started, how big is it?
It's very small. So there's only 3,000 people that live on the island that I live on. So like on a good day, there's like maybe like 8 people, but on like an average day, there's probably like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hawaii as a whole, are there lots of gyms in the state of Hawaii?
Yeah, I think martial arts in general is a pretty big culture in Hawaii, So um yeah, especially like MMA stuff with the BJ Penn and Max Holloway, like there's a lot of pride around the Hawaiian fighters. So I do think it's a big part of the culture. And there's some pretty big boys that are here. So yeah, it's fun.
Was it an adjustment moving to Hawaii and living in a place like that?
Yeah, definitely. So we moved. Are we recording right now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We moved. I wasn't sure. We moved from like San Francisco area. So it's like your commute every day to work is like an hour and a half, and it's just like yeah, it's a lot of traffic, a lot of people, a lot of congestion. And then we moved out here and there is zero traffic, not a lot of people, and there's not even a stoplight on the island. There's just like one road pretty much that takes you like to and from town and to the airport, pretty much is the road. So, yeah, it was a pretty big adjustment, but yeah, we like it. Every time we leave and go back to visit family and stuff, like it's nice for a few days, and then we're like, man, I can't wait to go back. So I think that's a good feeling.
Would you ever move back to the mainland United States?
I think so. I think it's fun out here right now, but I think ultimately it's like we don't see it as like where we're gonna like live the rest of our life. So maybe like a couple more years, reassess. But it's been nice because there's not a lot of distractions. So I've been able to just really focus on building like the YouTube channel and the business around it. And then my wife's been able to get some like extra credentials and stuff for her work. So yeah, it's kind of been like this is the like grind phase of our life where we're just like tunnel vision on our goals. And then the idea would be to move back to the mainland with like a plan to like run with it a bit more. So yeah, that's kind of the idea.
That's awesome. With that, I'm going to give you a proper introduction, Jake. For everybody out there listening, my name is Chris. This is Chee-Tash. And today, joining me on the podcast, Jake from the YouTube channel, Less Impressed, More Involved BJJ. Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. With your YouTube channel, whenever you maybe mention it in conversations with people, oh, I have a YouTube channel. How do you explain to people what your YouTube channel is about?
Yeah, I just say that I watch professionals and try and highlight trends that I'm seeing professionals doing um, to help people try and improve their jujitsu is basically the way I word it.
Do you still get asked from people like, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I go to a gym." "Oh, which gym?" "Oh, I go to a jujitsu gym." And do you get people asking you, what's that all about?
Um, I think honestly, it's been like people are pretty well educated, I think, these days on what jujitsu is. So I find myself having to explain what it is less, unless it's like a an elderly person. And then they're like, 75 years old and they're like, oh, I think I'll come join. And I'm like, it's not like Tai Chi or something like that, Like that's kind of what they envision is more like flows and like that type of thing. But for the most part, I think people are pretty well educated. Pretty much everyone here like wrestles. Like wrestling is like a big part of it. So like a big part of the culture. So people like tend to have an idea of what it is. So yeah, I don't find myself having to explain it too
Mm.
much.
How long have you had the YouTube channel for now?
So the YouTube channel started um, when I was back on the mainland and I was learning how to hunt and I didn't know anything. So I was just making like how to tie knots and like hang your food in the backcountry so like bears don't get it kind of thing. And it was more of like just for me to reference those videos later on when I forget how to, tie a knot. Um, so yeah, it was more like that. And then we moved out here and then I started to make jujitsu videos. So I think like maybe in total it's been like 4 years, but I've started doing jujitsu content maybe like 3.5 years um ago. Yeah.
With the content, I've noticed you pretty much exclusively focus on no-gi jujitsu. Is that correct?
Yeah. I started my like first maybe like 6 years of training were in the gi and then COVID hit and then I didn't train for like a year and a half. But right before COVID, I went to a Craig Jones seminar at the school that was down the street. And I thought I was like decent at jiu-jitsu. I was like one of the best people at the school I was training at. But then I went to this Craig Jones seminar and everyone was asking about like how to defend K-guard. And I was like, I don't even know what K-guard is. Like, what are these people talking about? And then Um, like I got heel hooked probably like 50 times in the like training at the seminar. At least it felt like 50. So then I was like, man, I need to learn this leg lock stuff. I'm just getting destroyed with it. And then COVID hit like 2 weeks later, and then I stopped training. So basically all over like for a year or so, I just like studied a bunch of leg lock stuff. And then when I came back to training, I just did no-gi, and now I only do no-gi. So yeah, I don't watch any gi jujitsu.
Would you ever create content someday surrounding like gi jujitsu?
Right now it's basically kind of what I'm interested in. So if I ever do for whatever reason get interested in gi, then I would. But right now I've kind of taken the approach of, you know, do something really well in a narrow field. And for a while there, it was just, almost like no gi for ADCC was kind of like built what I built my name off of, kind of. And then now I'm doing a lot of other organizations as well, but like basically I tried to like take it to the extreme and just like no gi for ADCC and like try and get a bunch of like statistics around it and stuff like that. But yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, it's gonna be no key. I don't at least right now I don't see I don't have any interest in the gi. And watching no gi content and keeping up to date with that is a full-time job in itself. So yeah.
Do you find in the broader scope of like the country or the world, no-gi jujitsu is more popular, has more eyes on it than gi jujitsu?
Probably eyes on it, yes, but I think a lot of people still train in the gi. Like I built this kind of the business model that I've tried to follow is you like basically the idea is you give away the product for free, but you sell the process. So the product is like all the YouTube videos I make, the Instagram videos, the newsletter, every piece of like content that I make is the product, and I give all of that away for free. But the process I use to do that is the website that I made. So basically, if you want access to that process yourself, you sign up for the website, but all the product is for free. So that's kind of the business model. Sorry, I forgot the question, but I had a
Oh,
train of thought and then I forgot it.
no,
What was your question again?
um, as far as popularity between
Oh,
no-gi
yes.
and gi.
Right. So basically the database has all no-gi stuff basically. There's very limited gi material on there. And the people who sign up, there's a decent amount of them that have given the feedback that they wish there was more gi content because they train primarily in the gi. Um, so yeah, like based on that feedback and what I'm kind of experiencing as I'm growing the product, it seems like a lot of people still train in the gi, but I do think the no gi events draw a lot of people in and get a lot of eyeballs on the sport. So um, yeah, it's kind of an interesting dynamic.
For those who might not know, do you find training in a gi versus training no gi, are those two completely different skill sets, or are there things that you can take from one and use in the other?
I would say I'm not the most qualified person to answer this question because I don't like I don't even know if I could tie a belt anymore, kind of thing. So I don't necessarily know. Um, so I don't, yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably you would probably do okay. Like if you just train no gi and then you throw on a gi, I think you'd do okay. But I imagine there are some areas that would give you some novelty that you would not necessarily be equipped to deal with. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, I guess it kind of determines if you could funnel them into your game or they funnel you into their game, kind of thing.
With the statistics that you were mentioning, is this where the outlier database comes in?
Yeah, so basically the outlier database is like it initially started because I was taking notes on my phone. Like whenever I'd watch a jiu-jitsu event, let's say like this recent AIGA event that just happened, it was like 17 hours long. So I would basically like watch the whole event and then I would take notes on my phone. Um, and then I would have to like control F and like try and find what I was looking for and then like try and piece it all together. And it became very unorganized and it was just kind of a mess, where it's like, oh, I remember like something happened from this position, 3 months ago, but I don't remember the clip or what time it was during that like 7 hour clip or whatever. So basically, this guy who trains at my gym is a software developer. And I asked him if there would be a way for him to make me like some sort of like website where I can like easily like take notes. And then he was like, yeah, I can do that. So I was like, cool, thank you. And then everyone was saying like, I wish like you should basically everyone was saying I should make my notes and statistics that I was doing like publicly available. So then I started thinking like, oh, maybe this would be a way to develop a product around it because you don't make very much money off of YouTube. And for I would say like 2 years, I was basically just living off my wife. And I didn't get another job when I had to quit my job to move out to Hawaii. Ever since we moved out here, I've just been doing the YouTube thing. And again, for the first like 2 years, I didn't make any money. I thought it was like very glamorized, like, oh, once you get to the like monetization criteria in YouTube, like you're home free, it's just gonna be like amazing. And then like the first month, I think I made like $80 after I hit that. And it took me like 9 months to get there. And I was like so excited. And then I made $90. And I was like, man, I thought this was gonna be a lot more than 90. So then I basically just kept doing that for another like year and change. And then the idea for the database came in. But basically, the idea is I take all my notes, and then you can search for a given position, and then you see like, 174 examples of that position happening in training or people teaching it kind of thing. And then you just kind of scroll through and watch people doing it in competition. So it's basically, like I said, it's the products I make, which are my YouTube videos. All I do is like if I'm making a video about the front headlock or something, I just search front headlock in the database and I scroll through those 270 examples. I save them to a folder and then I go screen record all the ones I liked and saved. And then I make my YouTube video out of that. So again, the product is the YouTube video, but the process is the database. So yeah, that's kind of how it developed.
Are you surprised at the innovations or the new trends that keep happening in jiu-jitsu, or do you feel like will there ever be a day where there's just nothing more to learn from within jiu-jitsu?
I am always very surprised at how good people are. Like people are so good these days at jiu-jitsu. Um, and it keeps on getting better. Like there are some people you watch and they have like the same game like over and over. Like every time you watch them, you kind of know what to expect. But then there are other people, it's like they compete once and then like 3 months later they're adding a new skill and they've like are working to implement it into their game. So yeah, it's like those type of people, like the like at the recent Aiga event, Kenta Iwamoto is I think a pretty innovative grappler and is always trying to like implement new skills into his game. So people like that, I always try and watch every time they compete, because I feel like they're pushing the limits of the sport and constantly trying to either improve their skills and like develop ways to deal with certain resistance, or they're trying to add a completely new skill to their game. So at least for the foreseeable future, I don't see that slowing down. I think there's a lot of really smart people now doing jujitsu, and there's getting more and more money being thrown at the sport. So I think there's more and more incentive to kind of keep pushing the limits.
Have you seen the influence of other sports in jiu-jitsu, maybe namely something like wrestling?
Yeah, definitely. And I think as more events start to use things like, the slanted walls type of thing, I think it just puts a bigger emphasis on the wrestling aspect because if someone's just pushing you around the mat and is able to hand fight really well, they can force you into a very compromised position against that slanted wall. And yeah, so basically, I think it's going to become, it already is like a huge factor in jiu-jitsu these days, but I think it's just going to get emphasized more as you compete in like arenas that have those slanted walls.
Does it seem like there's some aspects of like college NCAA wrestling that use jujitsu techniques, or they're just they're using moves that also would apply in jujitsu?
Yeah, so it's funny you said that because I was just thinking about making a newsletter about this. So um, one thing I noticed in wrestling is like a lot of the times to solidify a takedown, they'll almost like give their leg to like let their opponent enter like 50-50 or like some sort of like leg entanglement. And it basically forces the bottom person to concede bottom position. So in this way, I've kind of noticed that wrestlers almost like use jujitsu as like a way to solidify the takedown. Um, so yeah, I think this is an interesting idea, and like a little thing that I noticed while watching a lot of wrestling matches. But yeah, I don't know if that's a good
Yeah.
answer or not, but yeah.
What could you say is one trend or innovation that is happening right now that like gets you really excited or looks really, really cool?
Yeah, so I think right now a lot of people are interested in guard passing. with the like inside camping and outside camping type of guard passing. So that's what I've been studying a lot recently. And yeah, kind of incorporating the two together. So yeah, the basic idea would be like if you're like inside camping and like trying to like drive their knee into their like armpit maybe to like force them into a retracted state. This might lead to more opportunities to outside pass because like when their feet are close, it's easier to get around their feet. You can start to go around their legs easier. And then as they're trying to extend their legs, this can lead to more opportunities to go like tight and like beat their knees and get like more chest to chest half guard type thing. So this idea of like inside camping, outside camping, retraction versus extension type of dilemmas is something that I'm pretty excited about. And yeah, I have a couple of videos in the that I'm working on right now about this idea.
Speaking of your videos, how long does it take for a typical video to get created from like maybe the idea all the way to actually publishing it?
Yeah, it depends what type of video. Like if I do a type of video on the event, like if there's some sort of event that happened and I just talk about what I learned from that event, this type of video typically doesn't take as long. It's mostly just like for example, this IEGA event that was like 17 hours. The broadcast was 17 hours. So it probably took me like 3, 4 days just to get through that event and like take all my notes and things like this. But as I'm taking my notes, I save the ones that I like to a folder. And then once I'm done with the event, I just go through the folder and then compile the video. So just to like, it's pretty easy for me to talk about because I literally just did this. But yeah, it took me 3, 4 days to get through the event. And then yesterday I started making the video and I probably got like 3/4 of the way done with the video in one day. So the event type of videos are relatively easy to make. But the videos where it's more like me diving into a given position, those tend to take longer, just because I try to watch like a bunch of instructional type content to try and get an idea of like the major battles going on from the given position. And then I go through, like if I'm making a video on the front headlock, I would watch a lot of front headlock instructionals to kind of get different perspectives, different battles. And then if it seems like a certain battle is really important, I'll watch like the 200 examples we have in the database of the front headlock, and I'll see how different people are like winning that battle that is important. And then I'll probably make a section about that battle based on like what I'm seeing as the trend of how to win that battle. And then I'll go through and I'll watch those same 200 clips from the front headlock, but I'll focus on like a different battle that I think is important. And then I'll go make that section for the video. And then I basically just repeat that process for all what I think are the major battles from that position. And that's how I make those videos. But those tend to take longer. So maybe like a week or two. But before I had the database, man, it was a grind to make videos. It was like so disorganized on my phone and like yeah. So I would say the database probably saves me like at least a week because I think before we had that, it would take me probably like almost a month to make a video that was focused on a given position because it was just so hard to like find all the examples to reference. Like if I know a major battle happening, how do I find 200 examples from the front headlock to study? It was like kind of a like very scattered, and you have to watch like a 2 hour event to maybe see like three examples from the front headlock, and then you watch another event, and it's like it just takes a long time. So yeah, the database has saved me a lot of time.
You don't have anybody else, like a team of people? Like this is just all you doing this?
Yeah, it's all me. Like the YouTube is all me, and then I have one other person helping me build the website. So yeah, it's like all the YouTube stuff is me, and then I have the software developer for the database side of things.
Hmm. Your typical viewer of your content, is this somebody who is just a casual, goes to a jiu-jitsu gym just a couple times a week, or are these people who are heavy into the competition scene? They're very competitive. They go to tournaments a lot.
Yeah, so I think it's both. I think when I was initially like starting it, I didn't expect like the top level competitors to be watching, but they do. And it's always very surprising to me. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. And yeah, I feel very lucky. But I think for the most part, like initially when I was making the videos, I was trying to make it for people who are casual jujitsu practitioners that don't have, 30 hours to like in a week to watch the recent event and kind of, yeah. So basically I tried to study a given position, study a given event, and condense it all down into a like 10-minute video. So it's like, yeah, I studied this position for like a month and a half. Here are my findings in a 10-minute video to try and save you some time. So yeah, my that was the initial plan, was to market more towards like the casual person, and appeal more to them and help them develop. But yeah, to my surprise, a lot of high level competitors also find the content helpful. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Can you share any like specific names that have reached out to you maybe and have said, "Hey, you got great content. Thank you so much."
Yeah, I mean, I did an interview with Joseph Chen, and got to train with him. So that was kind of the first kind of like big name that I got to connect with. But like, it's always cool to see, like whenever anyone signs up for the database, I get like a notification with their email when they sign up. So there have been some like well-established athletes that signed up for the database, so that's always fun. And then I usually reach out to them and like start a relationship with them based on that. So like example that just like comes to the top of my head right now is Lucas Kennard. He signed up, and yeah, I'm excited to see him compete more. There's not a lot of. Do you know who that is?
The name sounds really familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, he won ADCC trials um, a couple years ago, and then he had kind of his breakout performance at CJI when he beat Victor Hugo in the first round. And Victor Hugo was like the favorite to win the whole thing. So yeah, he doesn't have too much competition footage out there on YouTube, but he is going to be on the Australia Asia team for the CJI event coming up. But yeah, he was like the more recent person that joined, than this first person that came to my mind. But yeah.
What's the feedback been like from other people on your who are on your videos or in the comments section? Let's say, is it very positive, or do you get people who are I don't know, trolling or very critical? What is that like?
Um, when I first started, I didn't know what this was, but there were so many comments about me having vocal fry. Do you know what this is?
No, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I didn't know what it is, but basically, what it is you talk a lot, but you don't breathe. So when you talk and don't breathe, then as you just like keep talking, your voice starts to get like raspy towards the end, and then you just like keep going, and then it gets raspier and raspier, and then yeah, it just doesn't sound very good. And this right here, that when I'm talking is vocal fry. So there was one comment saying it, and then I was like, oh, whatever. Like, it's just a hater kind of thing. And then, like, the second one came in, and then, like, the 12th one came in, and I'm like, man, I need to look into this vocal fry thing. So now, when I make my videos, I basically just say, like, one sentence at a time. And then every time I speak, I take, like, a deep breath, and then I talk for one sentence, and then stop it. And then I take a deep breath, and then I say another sentence. So that was, like, the only piece of, like, helpful criticism, I think. There are some negative comments, but for the most part, it's all super positive, and the support has been amazing. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful.
Do you interact with people within the comment section? Will you respond to comments or questions that arise?
Yeah, definitely. I have a Discord that people get access to when they sign up for the database. So I try and be more responsive in there as opposed to the YouTube comments. But I do try and respond to YouTube content comments. Sometimes it's difficult, like when people ask like specific questions, like how do I deal with X, Y, and Z, kind of thing. And it's like, man, I don't know how to like respond to this in a YouTube comment. But that is sometimes some inspiration for what to address in a future video kind of thing. So if that's the case and I'm going to make a video on it, I'll just say like, hey, stay tuned for like the next video. I'll try and address it there. But yeah, for the most part, people I reply to most YouTube comments. But most of them are just like kind of short, like, hey, thanks for the video. And I just say, yeah, glad you found it helpful kind of thing. Like it's not anything like super in depth.
For the future of your YouTube channel, for example, I noticed you had recently interviewed PJ Barch,
Yep.
and
Another one that signed up for the database. He's awesome. I love PJ.
oh,
Yeah.
very cool. I was wondering, do you have plans for the channel where you plan on maybe changing the content or incorporating more things like interviews? Are you experimenting with like different, I guess, styles of content?
Yeah, so maybe like 2 years ago, my buddy from California, his name's Josh, he was starting to get into jiu-jitsu and he kept calling me and asking me a bunch of questions. And I was like, maybe we should just start a podcast where you just call me and then we just talk about it. So we've been doing this podcast for like 2 years now, but it's always been like separate from my YouTube channel. But then we started to get like people like Greg Sodders, people like PJ on. And we also started to use the database more during the conversation. So like when Josh would ask me a question, I would hop on the database, search something and be like, hey, so like this is, and like give him some visual feedback on like his question. So when that started to be the case, it's kind of started to make more sense to post it on YouTube. So only recently we've started to post that type of podcast on my actual YouTube channel. Um, but we've been doing that podcast for a few years now. So I don't know like if it should be a separate YouTube channel to like not ruin the algorithm or like yeah, I don't really know. But for now, we're just kind of keeping it all, on my YouTube channel. And I don't post all the podcasts we do on there. I just post the ones where we use a lot of visuals so people can see the visuals. Or when we interview someone like PJ. Yeah.
Very cool. Peeling kind of the layer back a little bit for somebody who's training in jujitsu, how would you how would you tell somebody to balance between like live rounds, rolling super hard, just drilling technique, watching instructionals or videos? How do you balance all of those things in your journey through jujitsu?
Yeah, this is tough. Again, I don't know if I'm necessarily the most qualified to speak on it because I wouldn't consider myself to be good at jujitsu. I just watch a lot of jujitsu, but I'm not necessarily the best at transferring that knowledge into skill. So I don't necessarily know if I'm the best person to ask, but for just I could just tell you what I do. Um, in general, I don't go like too hard in the rounds at the gym. Mostly because everyone is not necessarily like too good at the school that I train at. So it's more about being like so the way I've heard this phrase, and I forget who said it, and I apologize to who said it, but they basically said like when you're trying to go easier in a round, you can either like dial down the intensity, but use all of your techniques in your repertoire. So you use all of your techniques, but you don't do it with as much effort. So that's one way to dial down your intensity and go 40% or whatever. The other way to do that is to keep the intensity, but not do all of the techniques in your repertoire. So maybe you limit yourself to like, I'm not going to do leg locks in this round. I'm just going to do a specific skill that you're trying to practice, but you do it at like an intense pace. So the way I've tried to do it in my training is a few times a week I'll do it like one way, and then a few times a week I'll do it the other way. So like if I go into a training session, I might say like today I'm not going to do like very intense stuff, but I'm going to do everything I know. I'm going to try and like incorporate my leg locks with my wrestle ups, with my guard passing, with everything. But then another day I'll say like, okay, I can't do any leg locks today. I can't like sweep using leg locks. I can't like do anything with leg locks involved. But I can go hard, is basically the way I've tried to handicap myself a bit, and develop my skill.
For somebody who's maybe just starting out, or even for somebody who's been doing it for a while, but maybe like in your case, if you move somewhere and you're looking for a new gym, what are some things that kind of stand out to you that would make a gym like a really, really like great place to train versus maybe another that some other things that maybe would keep you away from certain gyms? Are there things that you look for?
This is a good question. I don't know if I'm the best person to ask because I'm pretty isolated here on this island and I don't get exposure to a lot of gyms. But basically, I would say like it should probably be clean is like a number one criteria. Um, and then at least personally, like I don't like when people make like blanket statements like this is the way to do something. So I would try and look for a place that is like has a relatively open-minded like culture where they're like willing to experiment and have an open mind to different ways to solve problems as opposed to being like stuck in their like path that they prefer on how to solve the problem. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And then from there, it's just like if you like the people kind of thing and want that to be your community, because that's also a pretty big aspect of jiu-jitsu. So yeah, those are, I think, a couple that come to mind.
In your training, have you ever experienced parts of your training or while you're training where you maybe motivation starts to wane, or you feel like you're plateauing, or you're just not getting better and you feel like you should? Has that happened to you before, and how do you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, definitely. So I've overcome this challenge a few different ways. But I think it all comes down to watching footage. So, or I guess you can watch an instructional. I tend to watch footage, but I think it probably works with instructionals as well, where you just want to be like interested in something. And like when my motivation fades, it's because I'm not excited about learning something. So like for example, if I'm not feeling motivated, I might go watch like an athlete that I like and I'll just watch some of their matches. And then like for example, this AIGA event, I was like 17 hours is going to be a grind to watch this whole thing. But then after watching Kenta do his guard passing, it made me very excited about jiu-jitsu and working to implement that guard passing and see how it connects to the guard passing that I already know, and that type of thing. And the other way I've done it in the past is if I'm not necessarily excited about anything in jiu-jitsu and there's not like a new event to watch or anything, I'll go watch like wrestling and then take a bunch of notes on wrestling and try and see something that makes me excited to go train. So yeah, I think it all just comes down to like seeing something that gets you excited to go try and develop it. And what I found is watching professionals has helped me overcome that hurdle and get me excited about it. But I imagine it could be, watching an instructional as well, and then, you learn something new and then you want to go try and implement that and develop that skill. But for me, it tends to be more like live matches. But yeah.
Is it possible to make a living off of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, or are there other things that you have to do in addition to competing to, sustain a lifestyle? What do you think about that?
I think it's becoming more realistic to make a living in jiu-jitsu. Luke Griffith actually just gave an interview in preparation for CJI, and he was talking about how his visa doesn't allow him to do seminars, doesn't allow him to sell like instructional type content. So he just makes money off of competing, and he's doing okay. So that's pretty inspiring, but he's also like the top athlete. So like I think if you're being realistic, it's very unlikely that you're going to make a living just off of competing. And again, I consider myself very lucky because basically I was given like I lived off my wife for 2 years to try and make this happen. And I did not take the competition route. So I don't know if I would have been able to do it in 2 years if I went the competition route. Um, but as far as like building an audience and just trying to provide something useful to people is possible. And I think like that's kind of the backbone of everything is you need to be useful. So like even if you're competing and you're like the goal of competition is, in my opinion, at least how I hope people compete is to give something like useful to the audience, whether that's like entertainment or like things for them to study and develop in their own game. You're trying to give something to the audience. So you can do that through competition, you can do that through social media, whatever, but you're just trying to be useful. And I think if you can figure that out, then there is a way, but I don't necessarily think it's the like it's going to be tough. It's a grind for sure.
With your YouTube channel and your content, kind of what is the future look like? Are you planning anything special, or maybe even with your gym as well? Kind of what's in store for your future?
Yeah, so just I guess kind of piggybacking off the usefulness thing, we've been doing the website thing for like a year and a half now with the database, and the people who seem to love it the most, like students love it for like they learn De La Hiva in class and then they go home and they search De La Hiva and they see, different ways competitors are using De La Hiva. And then they go get some inspiration from that and then try and apply it in their training. So definitely students love it, but coaches really love it for like designing their classes and things like this. So in the, I guess like future, meaning maybe like the next year or so, our goal is trying to lean into helping coaches more and develop some sort of like curriculum design tool for them to, again, just try and provide something useful to them and their students that will help them, provide a better product for their students, but also, grow their schools a bit more. So that's kind of what we're doing in the immediate future. And as far as the YouTube thing goes, like I'm just trying to basically like make videos when I feel like I have something interesting to say, and not like be on a tight schedule to like release videos every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. So yeah, again, I think it just comes down to being useful, and that's what we're trying to do in the next year.
Jake, this has been a really, really great conversation. Thank you again for coming on and doing this. Really love the content and hope everybody out there who trains or is interested in jiu-jitsu, doesn't even train. I think your content provides a ton of value. So thank you very much. For people who want to connect with you, I know the YouTube channel, I'll definitely include a link to that, but is there any other way? Are you on other social media platforms?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram, and I also have a newsletter on Substack. Yeah, those are my primary forms of like content that I put out. Yeah.
Nice. I will include links to those as well in the description for people to check out. And thank you once again. This was really great. It was great to get to know you and learn more. Thank you.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
And for everybody else out there listening, my name is Chris. This is Chee-Tash. Take care, everybody.